across now to my colleague Samkele Maseko for reaction on the judgment regarding the Ramaphosa versus Mkhwebane case. Thanks very much for joining us, Samkele. So what is the reaction from the President's office, if any, yet?
In the facial expression I've seen from Mrs. Khusela Diko, the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa, it's nothing but jubilation for her boss on those judgments that were presented at the North Gauteng High Court on the President's case versus the Public Protector, and setting aside of the Public Protector's remedial action report on the CR17 campaign of the President. The judges going as far as to saying the Public Protector had no jurisdiction in investigating the CR17 donation campaign of President Cyril Ramaphosa, going to setting aside her remedial action that the President misled the National Assembly and did this unintentionally. Let's bring in Mrs. Khusela Diko, the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Mrs. Diko, a response from the Presidency, particularly from the President himself. What is he saying about this particular judgment by the judges at the North Gauteng High Court?
Well, thank you very much, Samkela. The Presidency, President Ramaphosa, has welcomed the judgment of the Gauteng Division of the High Court. The President says that indeed this judgment would have reasserted the issues that he had been raising repeatedly. Firstly, that there was actually no factual basis for any assertion that he would have misled Parliament and by necessary implication the nation. And secondly, that there was no lawful activity that the President would have participated in, and that by no stretch of the imagination or no stretch of law, in fact, can you come to that conclusion as the Public Protector did. We welcome this judgment. We welcome the fact that we believe it brings finality to the matter. The President remains committed to honest and effective governance.
The judges go as far as to saying that the Public Protector, in the path she's continuing, she's going to lose the trust of the very same people who elected her to represent them. What is the President's view on this particular matter of some of the scathing remarks that the judges were making?
Well, I think the President has noted the remarks that have been made by court. They are obviously very serious remarks that have been made by court in relation to the manner in which the Office of the Public Protector would have conducted itself. He has made no determination on confidence in the Public Protector. He believes that that is a matter that will be handled by Parliament. At this point, welcoming this judgment. Indeed, that's what the courts are there for. It's to settle disputes that exist in society, and he is happy that the views that he had raised in this regard have prevailed.
On the issue of the Public Protector basically being set to her remedial action of the President having directly benefited from the Pusasa donation of 500,000 rands from the late Gavin Watson, personally from his own account to CR17 campaign, what's the President's view on this particular matter? And does he still believe that the Public Protector has been venturing into the political arena when it comes to his investigations on his ANC campaign?
Well, it's not the view of the President. I think the court was very clear that the Public Protector had absolutely no jurisdiction to investigate issues that related to the CR17 campaign. It was an internal campaign, but the court goes further to say that the President derived no benefit whatsoever from those donations. It was a political party funding campaign, an internal campaign, which in its nature did not accrue to the President personally. So there was no responsibility on him to disclose those particular donations. But Samkela, I want to just also underline the point that the court declared that when the President was in Parliament, he answered as honestly to the best of his ability at that particular point. And the President's conduct, again, the court asserts that the President's conduct was in line with somebody who has every intention and acts in a manner that is honest, that is accountable, that is transparent. And we are glad that the court has upheld those particular principles. We do think that as this matter has now been brought to finality, it gives obviously an opportunity for the Office of the Public Protector and the nation at large, to study that judgment carefully and to ensure that such instances do not recur.
In the case that the Public Protector decides to appeal this particular court judgment on this particular remedial actions of hers and the report being set aside on the President, what's the way forward for the Presidency?
Well, we would not wish to comment on that. As we've said, that we believe that the courts are there for a particular purpose, and that is to settle disputes that arise in society. And if the Public Protector is of the view that there is a matter that requires such further arbitration, then she would be acting well within her rights to do so. As far as the Presidency is concerned, this matter has been settled, and we trust that all of us will be able to move forward, having learnt the lessons that came out of it.
Ms. Diko, in this also particular court case, there was another one where the President wanted to conceal the various statements that the Public Protector had of the CR17 President's campaign. Is the President beholden by those who funded his campaign in executing his government duties? Is he beholden by these funders?
Well, you remember that the court would have also ventured an opinion as it relates to whether indeed, participants in such a political campaign should know their funders. And it was the view of the court that the approach that the CR17 campaign sought to take was perhaps the correct one, precisely because of the reason that you outlined. But the court also spoke to the fact that but we need to ensure that while we have the political party funding bill, it does not extend far enough, but it is not the responsibility of the court to look into that matter. Samgelo, one thing that was particularly disturbing would have been the conclusion that the public protector came to that inferred or actually explicitly said that there was money laundering that is involved. Now, the judge went to great lengths to explain exactly what money laundering is, and he made the conclusion that there's absolutely no basis for any finding that says that the president has been involved in unlawful activities and particularly money laundering. He went further to say that there is also absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any money in the CR17 campaign would have come from public sources, but rather it was private sources of funding for a private campaign.
What is the president's relationship like with Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane?
The President and the Public Protector cooperate very well as expected by the Constitution. They have met on several occasions, including during the process of this particular report as it was being processed. And their relationship remains cordial, it remains professional, and we have no doubt that they continue to cooperate as required by law.
What's the way forward for the President of this particular matter? Is it done and dusted and sealed?
Well, the President will obviously spend some time to study the judgment. As we've said, that we believe that this matter has been settled, and we believe that the court has been extremely fair in its judgment on this issue, and any issues that require any further processing from there would be looked at a later stage.
On this particular matter of the CRC of the 500,000 from the late Gavin Watson, it's the President's confidante and arguably his best friend, one of the former presidents of the National Union of Mine Workers, James Mutlatsi, who went to get the donation from Gavin Watson, and he went to solicit it from Mr. Watson. Has the President spoken to Mr. James Mutlatsi, or has the Presidency had any engagement with Mr. Mutlatsi on how he feels about this particular judgment, since he was an implicated party?
Well, I will not be able to speak on behalf of Mr. Mutlatsi, but I do know that he also fully cooperated with the Public Protector's investigation. He outlined his side of the story. And more than anything, when the judge was speaking about money laundering and what constitutes money laundering, he would have said that it's only when a particular individual is aware that proceeds that are coming to him are the proceeds of crime. And it doesn't matter how many times, which I think the argument that the Public Protector was trying to make, how many times that money moves between accounts, it is not money laundering if that particular requirement has been met. So we are confident that that is aligned with the submissions that had been made by Mr. Mutlatsi and other individuals who had been involved in the CR17 campaign. It totally exonerates the President from any cloud that that report would have sought to cast on him, that he was involved in any unlawful activities or that he would have wanted to mislead Parliament and the nation at large.
Does this take a political weapon away from the President's opponents in the National Assembly? That would be those within who first made the first complaint, the Democratic Alliance through its former leader Mmusi Maimane, and those who came on board to defending Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the Public Protector, the economic freedom fighters, who have been very scathing and critical of the President in the National Assembly.
I really don't think it's about political weapons. I think the Democratic Alliance would have acted within its rights to raise issues. They felt that there was a matter that needed to be investigated by the Public Protector, and the President would have subjected himself to that particular process in line with what is required from him. Now that the matter has been concluded, I trust that even the opposition parties will find satisfaction in the fact that it has run its course, and we believe that it has now been brought to finality and conclusion.
I wouldn't be a journalist if I don't ask you this question. There are those whom have been perceived to be supporters of the Public Protector who are former ministers of the governing party which the President leads and leads that caucus in the National Assembly of the ANC. The likes of Bongani Bongo, the likes of Msebenzi Zwane, the likes of Mzwandile Masina, the mayor of Ekurhuleni, who have come out in public and supported the Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. With this court judgment, sharpen the contradictions within the governing party that the President leads on the issue of the future of the Public Protector?
I don't believe that that court case was about that. I think that this court case was looking at the Public Protector's report, in particular looking at its findings, the recommendation, and the President's application to have them declared unlawful and set aside. Now that has been done. Insofar as support for the Public Protector or not support for the Public Protector, my understanding is that the governing party has not made a determination in that regard. This is a matter that will be going to Parliament, and I think at an appropriate time it will then allow the governing party to make its view known. At this point, that court case did not look at that matter, and therefore we wouldn't be able to comment further on it.
Does the President want the Public Protector removed?
The President has made no such assertion at this point, and as I've indicated, neither he nor the governing party has made their views known on this point.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Khusela Diko. That was the spokesperson, rather, of the President. I almost said Madam President. That was the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that they are happy with the outcome that came out of the judgment on the remedial action, and setting aside of the report that said the President misled Parliament and received a donation from Gavin Watson of 500,000 rands, and setting aside of the investigation of the Public Protector and findings of the CR17 campaign, and also setting aside, and those particular statements were sealed and concealed by the President in a court application, and that's been set aside now. And the President says through Khusela Diko, it's all water under the bridge now, and he will study and reflect on the report. And also speaking about James Mutlatsi, the former President of the NUM and confidante of the President, who was part and parcel of the fundraising committee of the CR17 campaign, who also played a part in the court case and the submissions made by the President to the Public Protector.